you today. Actually, today is the July 30th of 2024, last Tuesday of the month of July. And we are thrilled that you've allowed us to partner with you in the different opportunities that we've been discussing about wealth and sourcing that wealth and making sure that we are diversifying the income and the wealth of our family. We are honored to be with you. We're excited about today's conversation because it's actually a conversation that we've had with many people. And we just came to the realization that we have not shared this at our Diversify Call. Most of it is actually because we focus on building different types of businesses while you have your W-2 job. As you see, Shad is not here with me right now. He's actually on the call, but he's driving. He's been this week with clients and having meetings because it is his last week at his current job with Shaw Industry. And we are very thankful for Shaw because Shaw was able to work with them for 25 years. It was a great company. He was able to meet great people, clients, his colleagues. But this week, as of Friday, will be his last day. So it's kind of a sweet and sour, I know, experience for him. I don't know, Shad, if you can unmute yourself for a minute and you would like to say something to everyone that is listening to us.
Yeah, it's been an incredible 25 years. It's been probably the last 5 to 10 years of planning to be able to get to this point, but now that it's here, it's kind of surreal. It's exactly what Deanna said. It's bittersweet. It's exciting to move on to the next journey to do stuff, that we've really always wanted to be able to do. But, I've made a lot of relationships over the course of 25 years. So a lot of friendships, almost family bonds, because, that's 25 years is literally half of my adult life or almost all of my adult life.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking today that, and this is something I'll take time to adjust to. So for 25 years of my life, I've been doing certain things with this job that I just do, regular things. I get up in the morning, I check my emails, I check my text message, I go through, pricing, things that actually become they're habits that they become part of a lifestyle. It's not just a job, it actually becomes a lifestyle. So it's going to require my brain retraining myself for a different type of lifestyle, because it's going to be a void there. Even though it's exciting and we get to move, we get to do other things, and I don't have to report to a boss anymore or customers. It's just you have to. It's that part that you really don't think about until it's here. It's okay, now I got to train my brain that that's not part of my life anymore. So I need to find other things to fill that up with. So I'm super excited. It's like everything else. When you leave something, you're excited, but then you're nervous because now we're dealing with a whole other thing. Where do we get health insurance? What do we do if this happens? There's not a steady paycheck coming every month now that we've had for 25 years. So it requires us to step out of our comfort zone. It requires us to do things differently. It requires us to be more strategic and about budgeting and making sure that we are using everything, all of our resources responsibly, and not, thinking, well, we have extra. And it forces us to go out and produce income other ways, because now the onus is on us to do that. It's not on an employer to give us a paycheck. It forces us to find ways to produce income so we can eat, so we can pay rent. So that's the great thing about being an entrepreneur and creating new things, because it actually stretches our brain, it stretches our person. So I'm excited about that. Yes, we're a little nervous, but we're more excited than we are that, because we know there's so much more ability and possibility outside of just working a W-2. And now there's no limitation to what we do from here. Before there was limitation, you're limited to what your employer will actually pay you, how far they'll let you go, what roles they'll allow you to have. Now
Yes.
there's absolutely no limitation to what we're going to be doing or what we want to do, what we want to accomplish, how much we want to earn. So I'm excited for that portion right there.
Yeah, and I think you and I, and this is something that we've shared with everyone, we've been writing plans, right? We had ideas, but as of July 2020, we actually started just taking notes and writing words in our living room in Valparaiso. And we just started putting big post-it notes in our living room 4 years ago in this month. We started writing words. What were the things that we were passionate about? What were the things that we would see ourselves doing in the future? So today, 4 years later, we're actually completely transitioning into that phase that it really didn't start 4 years ago, but we did started writing it 4 years ago. So it took us about 4 years to get to where we are at. So sometimes it could take less time. Sometimes it could take a little bit longer. I remember, maybe some of you might remember when Mark Davis, our friend, came to one of our meetings and he talked about his book, Burning the Boat, right? And actually, that is exactly what Chad is experiencing right now. It's almost like he's on the shore seeing the boat burning, right? So there's no way back. There's no bridge that he could go back. It is actually a time for him to be able to explore all of those different avenues that we have written, right? And there's some of those that we've already implemented, like this call. This call was part of our dream. It was actually to be able to share the knowledge that we've acquired with everyone, with people, right? And we just thought that a call like this would be beneficial and a way for us to share that knowledge instead of meeting with people independently. At least we could share the knowledge and make sure that it was out there. So this week is a big week for our family, for Shad, my husband. I know that when you build relationships, especially him, his role was as a salesperson, and he did his job with excellence. So he built relationships with so many people. And I know you were mentioning about they were almost like family. And I remember us going to some of your clients' children's wedding, right? That's how deep the relationship went. So it's actually exciting to know that those same components, that same passion and excellence, we're now just gearing towards the other companies that we've been able to develop throughout the last 4 years, our homes, a better life, this group right now, and then other opportunities that we are working on and developing. So it is completely a burning boat experience. So thank you so much, really, for being here with us. I think for almost 2 years now, or a year and a half, I'm not even sure when we started, but we appreciate your time. And thank you for being part of our journey. You've been seeing us developing that journey, seeing the ups and downs when we thought some things were going to work and they didn't. But we are in this time, right? Last week of July. And also want to say that it does require faith. It requires what people call a leap of faith, right? Because we have a plan, but we know that plans don't always go exactly like we wrote them. So there is a faith component that we all have to be okay with. Some people call it risk. There is a risk, and there's always risk. There's risk when we start in a W-2 job with an employer. because we are believing that we're not never going to be let go. But the reality nowadays is that that could happen. You know, one day they hire us, and maybe in a month, in a year, 2 years, they can let us go. So there is a risk component when we build a business, when we start strategizing other funding streams, other income funding streams. But it is okay to jump into that risk, to have that faith, because it will pay off. You will definitely be more happy. You will enjoy what you're doing. Not that you haven't enjoyed what you did before, it's enjoying the new phase that you are in right now. So today, I actually wanted to share some ideas, and these are conversations that we've had before. And I'm going to start with sharing a little bit of my story, if that's okay. So, well, I don't know what's going on with July, but actually, it was in July, about 10 years ago. I would say 9, 10 years ago. I was in a situation, actually, it was more like 8 years ago or nine. And I was living in Boston. And then suddenly, I got a letter from my landlord. It was around the month of March. I had just renewed my contract, my lease for the following year, and I received a letter. And that letter was stating that they were not charging me water before, but now they were going to start charging me water. Number two, the parking that I was paying was going to increase from like $100 to $125. And my rent was also gonna increase. So 3 increases over $100 between the three. Then about a month after that, I had a conversation with the person that helped us or helped me with taking care of Deborah. And she needed an increase, but I also needed to give her more hours. So guess what? All of the expenses suddenly went up significantly. So here I'm sitting, I don't know exactly what to do. My income is not increasing. I was working with a nonprofit organization at that time, and it was either trying to find a job or what else could I do? So in the month of July, I came to the realization that there was a strategy that I could do. And that's actually requesting an increase on my salary. So today, I want to be able to share with you some ideas on how to negotiate a salary increase. And I'm going to have you join my journey of my experience at that time. So, one of the first things that I did, and I would suggest for people that wants to increase their salary, because I know that many of you are trying to develop businesses, online stores, different types of funding streams, right, to increase them, but you still have a W-2 job. And sometimes you've been receiving the same salary for 3 years, 5 years. Maybe you've got an increase for the cost of living of 2%, 2.5%. But we all know that that doesn't really cover the expenses, that this doesn't really cover the costs, the increases of the cost that we've been seeing in our communities. I mean, gasoline has gone up, electricity, water, interest, mortgages continue, insurance policies continue to go up. In our cities, they continue to go up, but our income is not going up, right? So then that's exactly what happened to me. I think I had over almost $300, if not more, of increase in my expenses. I was a single mom living in a very expensive area in the Boston area. So one of the things that I did, and we're going to start sharing those ideas right now, is about doing a research and benchmarking. Things that I did was that I went to different websites and I searched for similar positions. But those positions were not just, I wasn't just looking at the title. I was actually looking at the job description and the tasks. So I wrote down all my responsibilities because I was actually hired for a role. But at this time, I was not just doing those tasks, I was actually doing other tasks that require more responsibility. So I wrote down what were the things, my responsibilities at that moment. And I started doing a search on different websites such as PayScale, Glassdoor, salary.com to be able to see how much my type of job was actually paying. Something very important was, and it is to add the town or the area that you are in, because every area or city actually pays differently. So I had to choose Boston area because that's the town I was working at, Boston. And then my experience. So these type of platforms actually allow you to make those changes. They allow you to put in your degree. How many years have you worked on this field? And then additionally, you can then search through or through the job responsibilities. So yes, it wasn't an easy task, but it was worth it. And you will see why it was worth it. So I'm going to repeat it, right? And I know this is a video, but first, write your job responsibilities. What are those things and tasks that you're doing? Find your current job responsibility and make sure you have it handy. And then go to a website such as PayScale, Glassdoor, salary.com, and start doing a research, a benchmarking. You want to also make sure that you are putting in the industry that you are in, because I was working on a nonprofit organization, and sadly, but it's the reality, nonprofit organizations pay less. So if I would have put the same responsibilities working at a big company, 500 Fortune company, maybe my salary would have been twice more, but not because I was working at a nonprofit organization. So make sure that you're choosing the industry that you're working in. It could be a school, hospital, nonprofit, for-profit. It could be a manufacturing company. Make sure you identify those as well. Also, the performance. How have you been doing? The size of your organization. Have you ever been responsible for a team? Have you been a supervisor? That's extremely important because jobs pay more when you are a supervisor. And it's not even the same when you supervise one individual than when you supervise a group of 5 people or maybe even 10 or more. So very important to also include the amount of people that you supervise. Now that we have that set up, then let's talk about your achievements. What are those achievements? Do you have certifications? Do you have special licenses related to your job? You want to make sure that you add those to your research, because those certifications will allow you to get paid more. And maybe you're already thinking, oh, Diana, I'm never going to get paid more money. Listen, if it worked for me and I've seen it work for other people, it could certainly work for you. You will see why. So, performance, what is your performance? Feedback that you've received before. Again, if you have a master's degree, a bachelor's, if you have maybe more than one degree, if you have multiple experiences, so maybe you've done x-ray, but you've also work at an ER if you are a nurse. Now that you have all of that information, I want you to make sure that you print out the research that you find from the different websites. And what these websites are going to give you is that they're going to give you a scale. One, of your job title. Number two, of how much you could get paid, minimum to a maximum. Yes, it will give you that range, and you're going to print this information out, even if it's as a PDF, and you are going to start preparing your case. Now, I know that this might not be an easy conversation to sit down with your supervisor or to sit down with HR. On my case, I sat down with my supervisor and I had my case all written down. I had my notes of what I wanted to share. So when we were talking about the positive feedback, we were talking about your performance. It's actually to take notes about your performance at your current company. What are those things that you were able to accomplish while you've been working with them? So I'm going to give you an example. On my case, I was able to document that I had been part of the integration and implementation of a new payroll system. For the type of role that I was at, that was a big deal. And I'm sure that you have done the same. Maybe you've joined a project. Maybe you were leading a project. Maybe you've come up with ideas that have actually saved money at your company. Or maybe it has increased the income of the place that you work at. Maybe the idea that you brought to the table reduced people's times on doing a task. Write everything down. You will see the impact of everything that you've done. If your performance has been great, write it down. If your performance has been great for 3 consecutive years, or maybe you've been at your company for 3 years and all 3 years you've been great, great performance and outstanding, maybe even you've received awards at your company, write those down, because this is part of your case. Write a justification. Make it clear and simple. Why do you need your increase? Why are you requesting an increase? Listen, in my case, I was getting paid less than other people that were doing similar works at other nonprofit organizations. I've heard about other people that have done this, people that we've introduced them to this idea, and they did it, and they found out that, and I'm just throwing out examples of number, they were getting paid 40,000 instead of getting paid 60,000. And it blew up their minds. They might be like, oh, you're telling me I'm getting paid 40 instead of $60,000? Yes, that's exactly what we're saying. And it's not just as humans, right? It's the data. You are creating a case based on data that you are finding out on the website. This is the reason why so many young people are moving from one job to another. Is because they found out that when you go from one job to another, let's say every 2 years, every year and a half, they get a substantial increase. $5,000, $7,000, $10,000. While Generation X and then the later millennials and baby boomers have stayed on the same job and they only see a small increment on their salaries unless they change position. So write your justification, make it clear, make it concise. I've been a great employee, and then you make those points, awards that you've received, and let them know why do you deserve a raise? What are your achievements at that company? What are the additional responsibilities? On my case, for example, I had my job description and I was able to add all of the other responsibilities that I was working at or doing or performing, meaning I had exceeded my expectations. Personal development, demonstrate, let them know what are skill set that you've learned. Maybe when you started at your company, you didn't know the software, but now you just don't know the software. You've actually become an expert on that software where people are coming to you to ask you questions on how to do it. Be brave and be bold. It is okay to tell your supervisor, hey, I'm an expert now on this software. I'm an expert on this other software as well. People come to me to ask questions and I can train them and coach them, which, by the way, is a great skill. Add that also. If you are a great coach, if you are a person that you're always teaching others and people feel comfortable to come to you and ask you questions on how to do it, document it and add it to your conversation. Schedule a meeting, choose a time to meet with your supervisor. You're thinking about and strategizing, when am I going to have this conversation? Should it be a Monday? Well, in my case, it wasn't Monday because Mondays were the busiest day for my supervisor. She was always back to back on meetings. Make sure that it's in a week that things are a little bit easier. And if you're thinking, well, Diana, we're always busy, there's still an opportunity. When is it less busy? I would suggest to have a one-on-one meeting and not to do this by email. Now, can you have everything written down for an email? Sure, you can. But try to have this conversation on one-on-one so that your supervisor can see your expression, so that they can connect with you. Even if you're working remotely, make sure you're doing a Zoom call. Prepare for that meeting. Have that range of salary that you're wanting. Make sure that you are clear, that you have all of the necessary documentation to have evidence of your request. Can I tell you what happened to me? Well, I had a folder with all of my documents inside. And I was like looking, when is she less busy, looking at her calendar. And I was able to build the courage and the strength, because for me, that's not my nature. I'm not good at selling and I'm not good at asking either. So for me to ask for a raise, it was very bold. But I was thinking, and my motive was our home, my daughter, making sure that I could keep a house, a shelter over her. So therefore, I sat down with my boss. I knocked at the door and I sat down, had my folder, and I started my conversation, letting her know how thankful I was about the job opportunity And then I follow up with sharing what I was requesting, an increase. And I was very clear in letting them know how much I was expecting it to be. And I even shared the why. I was vulnerable enough to let her know what was prompting me to request an increase. This request wasn't coming from greedy. This request wasn't coming because, I was fighting or upset. It was really coming from a real heart of someone that had a need to make sure that I was able to provide for my daughter. So she was able to understand my heart. She was able to connect with me. And at the end of our conversation, she said, I'm going to talk with our CEO and with HR, and I will get back to you. Practice your pitch. That's important. Stand up in front of a mirror, practice it. I had to do it. I was so nervous. I had no idea where to even start. Should I start like this? Should I start like that? So it's important to practice it. Stand in front of a mirror. What would you tell yourself? You know your supervisor. So, what are the things that you need to make sure that you're communicating with them? Role play. If you have a spouse, connect with your spouse and have them sit across of you. Maybe your sister, your brother, a friend. Anticipate questions. We should not be taken by surprise by questions. What are those questions that they might ask us? Write them down and write the answer to them. Why are you thinking about it? Why this time? Whatever it could be, write it down. Make sure that you write your answer as well, so you don't have to, because you're gonna be nervous, okay? We're gonna be nervous because we're doing something that it's not normal for us. It takes courage and being bold and brave. Consider alternatives as well. If they come back to you and they say they can give you a salary increase, well, can they increase the benefits that they're giving you? Can they increase your vacation days? Can they lower the time that you're working? Can they allow you to leave maybe at 4 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. so then you don't have to pay childcare for that hour? Consider other ways that might not be monetary, but that will also help you on your need. Vacation time, maybe even increasing your health plan portion. That might be a little more difficult, but you can still do it. Now, interesting enough, in my experience, 1 month went by and I didn't hear from my supervisor. Not one word. And it wasn't easy. Like, what are they thinking? What's going on? So it's okay to follow up. And even after your meeting, you can send an email right after your email. Thank you for your time. And put it in writing. My request is the following. And thank you for considering my request, right? Send them an email. Be thankful, right, for their time and for even the opportunity that you have at your current role. But then if you see that 3 weeks goes by and you don't hear anything, maybe a month goes by and you don't hear anything, it's okay to follow up, knock at their door. And maybe if you meet with them on a one-on-one, ask them. Don't let it stay right there in your heart. Like, what's going on? Maybe not the day after, but I could leave it for a couple of weeks and then just reach out. Hey, I remember we had this conversation back in July, mid-July. Have you heard anything? What is, and then start that conversation. Be open to feedback. Maybe they will say something like, you know what, we are going to give you an increase. However, we need you to work on these areas, right? Maybe they will not give you all the increase that you wanted, but they will still give you one. I do want to share what happened to me. So I requested an increase, and 3 months later, not August, no, actually 2 months later, September, we met and they communicated that in fact that they were giving me an increase, and they were giving me the highest of the salary bench that I have given them. They gave me the highest. And you know how much was that high number? Over 30% increase from my previous income. I was able to pay my additional parking, the water, the additional expenses for my daughter's caregiver while I was at work, and all the other my rent increase that happened because I was able to sit down and have a conversation. And you know what that conversation did? It also gave me an opportunity to influence more people. They actually changed my title as well. And it gave me an opportunity to grow within the company. Was I upset? Oh, well, why they didn't do this for me and I had to do it? You know what? It's okay. They have so much, and organizations and companies, for profit and non-profits, are always looking at the bottom line. And this is coming from a previous CFO. We are always looking. If it's a for-profit, they want to increase their profit. If it's a non-profit, they're wanting to make sure that they balance to zero. So sometimes they're just thinking about giving a flat amount to everyone based on performance. But if you know that you're doing the job of two people, be okay with sitting down. I have a friend, and this friend, on my example, went from 40,000 to 60,000. That's a big increase. So you don't have to stay just, doing what you're doing every single day, getting upset, getting offended every day because you're so good that they keep giving you more work. It is okay to request an increase. And is this something that only happens to me and only people that I've chat with? No. It's actually something that could happen to you. You might be even like amazed because maybe you ask for a raise and they give you even more than what you were thinking, because they know your value and they know that to let you go and to hire someone will be more expensive than to increasing your salary. And they know you, they know your strengths, and they know your weaknesses. So tonight, we are just inviting everyone. If your income comes through a W-2 and you feel that you're not being compensated the right way, be bold and be brave and request an increase. So I hope this has been helpful. I don't know if anyone on the call has any questions. Chad, maybe you would like to add something, and maybe people can hear your voice. But if not, oh, there we go.
Yeah, you could hear me, but my camera won't turn on because I got CarPlay going on, so
You are
it won't
okay.
switch. No, I think this is great. You have to like take bold steps to ask, because you're not gonna get a raise usually without asking. Very few times in life your employer is gonna come up to you and say, "Hey, you're doing a great job. I'm gonna give you more money." Because
Yeah.
they're, on the contrary, they're in business to make money, not to lose money, not to give money away, not to decrease their profits. So they're always looking for ways to increase money. So unfortunately, most employers they really don't care about the employees. They say they do because they need somebody to fulfill a job, but at the end of the day, it's really about the company's profits. So we do have to be bold and ask and really expect it from them. And we have to be willing to start looking for other careers, other jobs if we can't get it, because what Deanna said is it's the reality. You know, inflation, everything is going up like a lot. And you guys all experience this. Wages are either staying stagnant or going down. Like
Yes, with
literally in my
like
case,
this.
the company, yeah, in my case, the company I'm working for, they actually decreased our wages. So, and there wasn't even a conversation that we could have to increase them. It's like, if you don't like it, find another job.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the reality. That's why I say we have to be ready to look for somewhere else to work if we're not happy. Because there's a lot of people right now working at companies, and they go to work every day and they're not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just not going to change there. You have to be okay finding something else and getting out of your comfort zone. And I know it's not easy because we do get comfortable doing the same thing, same routine, what we expect.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes down to like our family's future, our happiness, what we want out of life, what our goals are. And if it's not lining up, if we go and ask for a raise and they say no, then that's all right. You know, they're not entitled to give us a raise,
No.
right? Nobody's entitled to give us a raise. Because when we get hired in, we hire in a certain wage and we accept it. But it's always good to ask for it, and sometimes they're going to give it to us, like in Deanna's case and a lot of other people, because there is a lack of talent right now.
Yes.
So every store you still go to, everybody's still hiring.
Yes. And it's
I
very
don't.
expensive too, Shan. To be able to
Yes.
hire someone is very expensive, because you
Yeah.
have to, sometimes that's what they're giving, signing bonuses, and there's a specific skill set that they're looking for. So it's not a cheap thing to get someone hired to a position.
Yeah. So it's good to take advantage of it and go after it,
Yes,
because that's a good point. It's expensive to hire somebody. It's expensive to get rid of somebody.
yes. And especially when your job responsibilities, and this is something I mentioned, if you're doing additional job responsibilities that when you started, right? Sometimes other people leave, and now you start doing, like I mentioned, two people's job, three people's job. You're being the receptionist, the accountant, and HR all at the same time. So now you're working about 12 hours every day instead of working 8 hours. And that's when it's like, it is okay to request an increase, and I'm quite sure that they will give it to you, especially nowadays, because even though we might think there's a lot of competition, there's really not a lot of people that want to work. It's another reality. We've been seeing that people don't want to work. People want to work 6 hour shifts, maybe 7 hour shifts. They don't want to do the 12 hours, take work from work to home. That's not what we're seeing anymore, especially because of the change of generations. People work at the office, people work from 9 to 5, and after that, I'm not going to continue working at 10 p.m. But they are expecting to get paid more. That's the reason why we see McDonald's paying $15 per hour, $16 per hour. It is because there is a lack of people. So, be okay with going out there. If you're not happy, like Chad was saying, you actually don't like this employer, their ethics are not in alignment with your personal ethics, their values are not in alignment. Maybe the way, that the company portrays is one, but once you work with that company, you can see that the culture of the company is toxic. You don't have to stay in. That's more us, Generation X, right? People over 45, 50 years old and over, that we would stay there forever and ever. But it's okay to be more like the millennials, to be more like the younger generations, where if they are not okay with an organization, they just get another job. And they're also pretty open to say, why did you leave the previous job? Their values did not align with my value. It was a toxic company. People are pretty bold nowadays, right? So we're so excited. We are blessed that you guys were able to join us. And I don't know if there's any other question, but if not, I actually have a document that we're going to be sharing as one of our resources where we have some bullets of the information that we provided, because I know and we know that this is information that will help you. And we hope that, listen, that you're happy at whatever you do, that you feel excited at whatever you are doing, because there's nothing worse than to live a life and to live it and you don't feel excited about anything, that there's really no purpose behind it. So we do encourage you, and we want to see you thrive in life and be joyful when you come back home, that your spouse, your children, um maybe your family, right, your parents will see you and they will see you thriving and exciting for life. So thank you for so much for joining us today, and then we will see you the month of August, last Tuesday of the month of August. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Take care.